Whether you're new to Sea of Thieves or returning after a long time, you'll notice that when you select Adventure, you are given two options: High Seas or Safer Seas. Now, this video might be a little bit controversial, but regardless of your time in Sea of Thieves, I personally recommend that you always sail on high seas. I did a full video about how Sea of Thieves is a PvPvE game, and you can go watch that in the top right corner over here and rage in the comments about it over there. But for this video, I want to explain the differences between safer seas and high seas. To explain the difference, I will make a comparison to bowling. You and your friends are going bowling. They want to play without bumpers and participate in a competition to win big money. You, on the other hand, want to play with bumpers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can't enter the competition because of it. The night goes on and your friends are having a great time competing against other crews, teams, and some of them are doing really well. One friend has been hitting a lot of gutter balls and probably won't make anything, but they still had fun. You are also having fun with nearly a perfect game. However, when the night is over, your friends made $300 and you only made $90 in tokens for the arcade. You don't think it's fair that your friends made so much and all you got was a participation prize. But this is exactly the same as Safer Seas. Your options are limited, your gold and reputation is only worth 30%, and you don't get to learn from the mistakes of running into other players and losing a fight because you'll never see another player. Now I know that there's going to be a lot of comments and opinions about Safer Seas, so even though I recommend high seas, I will tell you about your options and you can choose what you do. This is Sea of Thieves, and how and where you sail is completely up to you. And I will not shame you if you just want to play in Safer Seas, but you have to know that by playing there, you do not get to choose the consequences of how that game mode works. If you hate PvP and still want all the benefits of high seas, at the end I'll give you some tips for avoiding that terrible PvP that you don't want to participate in. Just know that sometimes you cannot avoid it. It will happen, you will sink or may sink, and that's okay. You'll make back the loot that you lost, and it will always make you more money in less time by playing in high seas versus safer seas. So, what is available in safer seas? In all honesty, it's a lot easier to list the things that are not available in safer seas. But here's an idea of what is. The ability to sail solo or with your friends on your own server with no other players. Open crew is not an option though. Also, solo play no longer requires an online subscription to something like Xbox Ultimate as long as you own the game. If you want to play solo by yourself without Xbox Live or whatever, it's fine. If you're on Steam, it doesn't matter. And if you're on PlayStation, when that is relevant here shortly, then you probably need to be connected to, what is it, PlayStation Network, PlayStation Plus, whatever the list of PlayStation online services are. You will be able to earn gold, but it's only worth 30% of what it would be if you were in high seas. You can earn doubloons, which are the blue coins, at 100%, but there are way fewer ways to earn them. In fact, we'll go over the list of things not found in safer seas, and if you can think of something outside of that list that's worth the balloons, please comment in the comments, because I was racking my brain and I could not figure out what you could turn in for doubloons in safer seas. You do earn reputation, which is like for the trading companies, at 30%, but you will earn 100% of the gold from your renown, which is like the season XP. But I still believe that the renown only goes up at 30%. So although the gold and the value you get out of that is at maximum, it takes forever to level up. And if you encounter the ancient skeleton, which is the blue and gold guy that pops up and gets you money, ancient coin that you get from that is valued at 100%. So you'll get the same amount of ancient coin that you would in high seas. You can play all the tall tales, all the world events, except the world events that are PvP centered, like the Siren Skull. And you can find any loot except for these. Any Athena's Fortune treasures, because you can't sail for Athena's Fortune or Reapers. The Chest of Fortune, Generous Gifts, Humble Gifts, Rag and Bone Crates, Reaper's Bounty, Reaper's Chest, obviously, Ritual Skull, the Skull of Destiny, all the tomes, which are the little books, and of course, not the Siren Skull. That's a lot of loot that's just not available to you. There's a level cap of 40, which will take you ages to get in Safer Seas. And you cannot get Pirate Legend in Safer Seas. I could go on and on and on about everything, but there's so much stuff in Sea of Thieves that it would take days to cover it all. So here's a link to the full list of frequently asked questions for Safer Seas, and I've pasted that link down in the description of this video. Read through it. If you're really curious about everything that Safer Seas has or doesn't have, or how the mechanic works, all your answers are at that FAQ page. Now, in high seas, you can do everything. Captain ships, emissaries, get Pirate Legends, sail for Reapers, turn in at Reapers, turn in at Sovereigns, everything. The only catch is that you have to play with other players, which means that any loot you turn in is at 100%, but none of the loot actually belongs to you until you turn it in. Now, in Safer Seas, you can get sunk to a skeleton ship, and the same thing would apply. But in high seas, there's other players. So high risk, high reward. Look back at my bowling example. The friends who played with the gutter ball, high risk to get a gutter, versus the bumpers, no risk. Get it? Knowing all this, you decide whether you even play Safer Seas. It's up to you. Again, I'm cool if you do it. But if you play Safer Seas, there are consequences. And you can't change the parameters, and the developers aren't going to either, because high seas is how Sea of Thieves is intended to be played. Now, there's going to be a lot of new players coming with PS5, and a lot of returning players with Season 12, because there's new weapons, new tools. So there's a pretty good chance that you'll enjoy the thrill of fighting another crew and winning. Or losing. Either way, it can still be a good time. Yes, losing can be frustrating, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world. Last thing that we're going to talk about is how to potentially avoid PvP. When you log into the game, check all the emissary tables at an outpost. If you see the little tiny ship on it, that means someone is sailing for an emissary. And since most players tend to sail with the emissary flag now because it's worth the risk, this will give you a pretty decent idea of who's on that server. At most, you're going to see 5 to 6 ships depending on the stability of the game and how many ships they're currently allowing on servers, which at the making of this video is 5. Or I think 4 if they're all galleons. It's a player count. It's not actually a ship count. If you see a Reaper, know that they are likely looking for PvP encounters. Not always, and that's okay. If people want a PvE Reaper, let them. It's a sandbox. It's okay. But just know that they are fully aware of the risk of PvP happening to them, or at least they should be, and you need to know that they might be looking for you. With the new voyage system, you can quickly appear and disappear on a server because when you dive, you actually switch servers. So if you do a dive encounter to your voyage, you could leave a server completely. Just know that if you do dive, any loot on your ship will despawn, except for things like storage crates, emissary flags that you've collected from other people, or the empty treasure chests that like store the little trinkets. If they're empty, they have to be empty or else it'll despawn. Once on your new server after diving, check the map. At the very least, you can check for a level 5 guild emissary, which is the 2 like clasped hands. They only show up when they're level 5 or any level of Reaper. If there is a Reaper, but they are far away, keep your eyes on the horizon, do your quest, turn in it at an outpost, and then immediately dive to your next quest. Don't stack loot, and you'll find that you're making gold and you're leveling up just fine without ever encountering another player. Now, you still might run into another player, and you can't dive unless you're 2 squares away from somebody. So it's a possibility that you're going to have to fight somebody. And if you don't want to fight and you just want to give up and let them sink you, just know that you're going to lose some gold because you didn't turn in that loot that was on your ship. But knowing that you've been making 100% gold value on all of your other endeavors for the last couple of dives, this will keep your hopes high. And when you do get caught into that PvP battle that you don't want and you're just going to surrender and let them sink you, you're not going to hate the game or the player because you've been making gold. And sure, maybe you lost $2,000, $3,000 because you got a really cool skull from the new skeleton captains. Those skulls are worth like $4,000. But that's okay because you've been making gold. And you can just dive and move on to the next server. Because sometimes in Sea of Thieves you sink. Sometimes it really sucks. But you learn from it. And it's okay. The only time it's not okay is when people are mean. And by mean, I mean talking trash, calling you dog water, stuff like that. Okay? There's no need for that. And if you're one of those people, please be nice to people. It's not that hard. And yes, it's a pirate game. Steal their loot. It's okay. But you don't have to call them dog water. They might be a day 2 player, a day 5 player, a 2-month-old player. All right? You know who you are. So there you go. You can choose whether you sail safer seas or on high seas. Again, my recommendation, sail high seas. The risk is worth the benefit. Get out there, risk it a little bit, have fun, and I'll see you on the seas. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please subscribe by clicking there or watch, a video here or there or there. And help me grow this channel, and you guys are awesome. Thank you for being here and watching all the way to the end. I'll see you next time.